All right, coming to round 5. Round 5, we were playing against a low rated team. If I'm not mistaken, it was team 13 or the starting rank. So we were playing with a slightly weaker team than we played previously in round 3 and 2, I believe. So in this match, we were looking to, definitely be much more caution about the match situation, because I think from round 4 what we realized was everything quickly went downhill. So we thought to be stable and get the point, because definitely this is a match in our hands. So it started off, we'll talk with Jacob's game. Jacob, so okay, what's the team like now? So it was Jacob, me, Alicja, and then Damian, and then we had Stanislav and Trisha. So Tigran was resting. I think overall we were higher rated throughout the match. So I think there weren't any title players in terms of I think there are FIDE Masters and Candidate Masters, but I don't think there were any International Masters. So you can see that the top level players weren't there here. So it really meant that I think top boards score, and I think we'll see how it went. So we'll talk about Jacob's game. Jacob started with a very solid variation against the Najdorf. So you can see that Jacob is having a lot of Najdorf games. So he played a4 from the white pieces, and soon there was a position where he showed immense positional play, where he fixed the weakness on b6 with a5, and he played bishop b3, giving room for not c4, not just yet, but to get the worst placed piece, the knight on f3, because with the pawn on e5 and d6, the knight seems, it's hitting on granite. So he went knight d2, knight c4, and then even knight b6, and his opponent was taking so much time. I think his name is Rafa Burgola. Apologies if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. And then, Jacob's opponent had immense time pressure, and Jacob was able to fully coordinate his pieces, get c4, c5, rook ad1, rook e1, everything was set. And after that, there was actually a moment, though, Jacob was mentioning that he slightly misplayed the position, in the sense that there was a moment where Jacob's opponent could play knight e5, or basically give up the exchange, but for an attack on the king. And he mentioned that it was very complicated, and there was, engines were just giving +1 for white, but the king has to run from g1 to b1. I haven't checked it, but probably I'll show it, the analysis here on the analysis board. So but it was impossible, because his opponent would just barely had seconds on his clock, and that was a quick win. So I believe that was a nice victory. And then just switching, not coming to my game just now, but switching to board 4, if I'm not wrong, Damian's game was finished too, with a very nice victory with the black pieces. I didn't get to see it, but it was a very close position, but then he checkmated his opponent. That was a brilliant game, what I heard, but I didn't check the game. And if you're wondering why I didn't check the game, it's because I don't have any device to see the game, and apparently there's no Wi-Fi in this specific region, so I mean area, in this place, so I can't really just check it again. But just on the top of my mind, what I remember, I'm just telling out or explaining. So that was 2 wins already, so we knew that things were just going in our direction. Now coming to my game, I played a very risky opening in the Reti, which is starting with f6. So it's very weird to see f6, and it's not usually played unless you're trolling someone nowadays. But this is a proper opening line. The idea is to support the d4 pawn with e5, and then after a series of moves, my opponent played castling quickly. He should have played bishop a3, and then we reach a very complicated position after knight a6, castles knight b4, and it's a super messy position. However, what happened instead, he played castling before bishop a3. That allowed me to play bishop g4, and then after bishop a3, now I don't need to play knight a6. I just go knight d7 and I'm secured. Everything was well till this point, but then he played b6, c6, takes, queen a3. And here I misjudged the position. I felt that I should keep the queens on the board, maybe try to attack on his king. But here Jacob mentioned after the game that I should have just played queen takes b6, because look, the position, I'm a pawn up, I have a better structure now after winning the b6 pawn. I'm 2 pawns up. But what I was worried about was knight takes d4, and okay, I'm giving up my extra pawn. Now his knight gets to c3, but that's not the point. The point is I'm an extra pawn. My only problem is the king. Let's trade the queens, and I could do that after knight takes b4, queen b4. Now c4 is threatened, and a3 is what is my main threat, so he can't really escape, and he has to take at some point maybe queen c3, but queen takes c3, knight takes c3, and my king is in the center, which is actually advantageous in the endgame. So that was supposed to be how the game should have continued, but rather I complicated matters where I had my king on f8, my rook on d8, I gave my a5 pawn to get the d3 pawn, and my opponent was so resourceful. He found some really amazing moves like knight ce5, but I think even knight fe5 would have been dangerous. Somehow I kind of unraveled from that mess, and then slowly but surely I was able to get it out and then secure a full point. Coming to Alicia's game, it was board 3, and she had a very nice opening. I think she got out prepared, but then she out prepared her opponent, so it was both ways. But then there was a moment where it reached a good knight versus bad bishop scenario. However, just I think before the time control, she played g4, and that really released tension, you know, in the sense that her opponent was grinding throughout with the a file and everything on the queen side, but g4 kind of was mixing things up and trying to confuse the opponent. But unfortunately, it was already very complicated, and they reached the time control, and just after reaching the time control, Alicja played a very natural move, rook a7, with the intention that if you do queen takes d4 check, she thought she can play rook takes e7 check, if I'm not wrong, but she missed that after rook a6, queen takes d4 is a check, and that is problematic because now c takes d4 and rook takes a7, and now she's simply an exchange down. She'll probably take the knight, but then it's pointless. So black has so many pawns, and she lost the game. Because if queen takes d4 wasn't a check, just imagine, yeah, you know, the knight would get trapped on e5. That was what we discussed. So that loss put us in +2. So we were 3 wins, but 1 loss, so it's +2. Then we had Stanislav and Trisha's game still ongoing, and Stanislav had a brilliant opening, a brilliant middle game. He was an exchange up, and then somehow he kind of messed things up in a scenario where he was a piece up now, which is kind of an upgrade from an exchange up, but his pieces were all on the first rank, and it was a pretty scary situation there, because now at this point we were just hoping for a draw. But if Stanislav lost, that would be minus +1. Our lead was still there, but if Trisha loses, it's a draw. So we were really hoping that Stanislav just makes a draw, or you know, hopefully converts a win. But it was already a bit dodgy after, you know, when the queen was on g5, the rook was on the second rank. It looked a bit dicey there, but somehow he with precise play, he found the right moves, right maneuvers, and he was able to activate his knight, queen, and rook to the third rank and start giving checkmates threats himself. And then there was still a moment where his opponent missed rook takes g2 after rook e1, if I'm not mistaken, because if you take the queen, he takes the queen, so that's how it was. So that was, yeah, we were lucky in that sense, but again, we just needed a draw, so that would have been not a problem. But from personal point of view of Stanislav, that's a game he should have won earlier. So nevertheless, he won that game, and that secured our win. We're just now waiting for Trisha's game. Trisha's game was also a very messy game. she had good prep in the opening. She sacrificed her b7 pawn, but then she got it in return with taking on b2. She got c5, c4, and everything was going here and there. But there were some insane tactics which I don't really recollect, but there was some chances. But her opponent played really well, and then in the end rook endgame she didn't have much chance and she lost the game. So that was that. So what's the score? So 4 wins. So it was Jacob win, I won, Alicja lost, Damian won, Stanislav won. So yeah, it was 4-2. So all decisive games, no draws, and that was a nice comeback again. So we know you're always talking about comeback, but yeah, I think the big comeback is yet to happen. But so it was a nice rebound, or I don't know what to say, but we won the match. So that's pretty much the round 4 and round 5 recap. I hope this video wasn't long, but to briefly talk about round 6, I don't know, I'll do maybe a separate video, but maybe I'll use this clip. So round 6, me and Jacob had a quick draws, and incidentally both were in Catalan openings, though I think Jacob's position was maybe slightly drawish than what I agreed on it. So we agreed for a draw. Yeah, I could have played on, but I wasn't sure what's the right continuation. But after checking with the engine, they said after e takes d5, e takes d5, I should play knight b5, which I just didn't see during the game. I was more concentrated on d takes c5 lines or knight e5 lines, and I really couldn't find anything there. So yeah, I agreed for a draw. So now currently we're 1 each, and still 4 boards remaining. Just to give a brief impression, I think Alicja with the black pieces, she's on a worse version of an Italian, because it seems like she lost many tempes. Her knight didn't develop on f6 quicker, so I'm not sure about her game. I think she's probably worse out of the opening. Coming to Damian's game, Damian I think has a good opening position. It was an a6 Sicilian, where he played knight takes c6, got the queen g3, maybe f4, f5 in the air. So that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And I don't know what's the time now currently. It's probably 5:30 or 5:45. So that's yeah, Damian's game. Then we come to Stanislav's game. I haven't checked it at all. Then Trisha's game. Trisha played a Kole opening, and then we reached a very weird structure. I mean, if you see the structure, it's probably like d4 and e5. You would never imagine that came from a Kole Zukertert opening. So that seems a bit messy to me. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. But that's the summary of the past 2 days and impression of today. So today is the 11th of September, and that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching the videos and following the tournament, and I hope to be more consistent in regularly uploading the recaps. But I really appreciate your support. Thanks for all the comments. See you tomorrow, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.